Good evening, I'm Theodore, the co-investigator and student lead for the FlipSat-1. I've been working on the FlipSat-1 for around 3 years now. So first we're going to go into the early history of the FlipSat-1, and that is the Wolverine CubeSat development team. The Wolverine CubeSat development team was formed in August 2015, and to gain experience with satellites, we practiced on Raspberry Pi emulators, tethered in high-altitude balloons, and captive carrier flights. This all was leading up to the YSAT-1, which was a 1U CubeSat that carried a biological experiment. It was launched in September of 2018. Leading up in the months before the launch of the YSAT-1 and the months after, we developed new proposals for NASA's CubeSat launch initiative. Unfortunately, the FlipSat-1 hasn't been accepted to the CubeSat launch initiative. However, in the future, we will resubmit the YSAT-1. So first off, we're going to go over the mission of the FlipSat-1. The mission statement of the FlipSat-1 reads, providing STEM-related experience to students while researching the volatility of single-band upsets within circuit boards with respect to radiation methods. Basically, we'll be testing the rate of single-band upsets or bit flipping within printed circuit boards as we use different methods of radiation protection. For the actual specifications of the FlipSat-1, we are seeking an orbit within the Van Allen radiation belt so that we receive the most amount of radiation possible from external sources. The more amount of radiation that the FlipSat-1 receives, the more amount of single-band upsets that will occur, and therefore we will have more data. We will be testing, as I said before, on printed circuit boards, and we will be testing Watchdog timers of various types, and we'll be testing physical radiation hardening, and we will be testing error-correcting code. So our printed circuit boards will be produced by Prototron circuits, and within each of these printed circuit boards, we will put as many octet binary sequences within it as possible. Each of our printed circuit boards will be assigned to a test group, and each test group will be a different type of radiation hardening. These test groups will have different amounts of circuit boards as different types of radiation hardening already has a certain amount of research. So therefore, we will be using different amounts of printed circuit boards for each test group. However, in total, we'll be fitting 30 total circuit boards, and each test group, as I said before, will have different radiation protection amounts. Our first method of radiation protection will be physical protection, and this physical protection will be using polyethylene. Polyethylene has a very high hydrogen count, so therefore it is a very good radiation protectant. In fact, it's already a prevalent method of physical radiation protection. The reason that polyethylene and its high hydrogen count is really good for radiation protection is that when the polyethylene receives the radiation, the hydrogens absorb and disperse the radiation around it. Our printed circuit boards will be fully encapsulated by the printed circuit board, by the polyethylene, so that way no external radiation that hasn't been stopped by the polyethylene will reach the printed circuit boards. However, we will have to have holes within the actual encapsulating structure as we need structural support and also so that we can access the printed circuit boards. The thicknesses of our polyethylene capsules around the printed circuit boards will range between 1 to 5 or 5 to 10 millimeters. We are not quite sure on the thickness of the physical radiation protection, as the actual volume constraints within the FlipSat-1 have not been determined. Each of these thicknesses, however, will have 2 different printed circuit boards, so that way we can have some redundancy with our research. Our second method of radiation protection will be error-correcting code. The method of error detection that will trigger the error-correcting code will be parity checks. As you can see here, a parity check works by assigning a digit that shows whether or not the digits that follow it add up to an even or an odd number. Therefore, if an odd number of binary digits will flip, then the numbers will not line up. Either the parity bit will be odd instead of even or even instead of odd, or the sum of the data bits will add up to the wrong number. We will use repetitive octet series for these basically data transmissions, and we will only use set series. We will use a variety of set series that we know, and after each time we detect it, we will each time we detect error, we will use forward error correction to rewrite it. Basically, we will look at the octet, we will change it to whatever octet is closest to it in this library of known octets, and then we'll send all that information back to us. Since we know what it's supposed to be, we can compare that to see if the error detection missed anything or error correction corrected the code to the wrong thing. Our third and final method of radiation protection will be watchdog timers. These will be efficiency tested, and we will use two different methods of watchdog timers. Watchdog timers are also a common method of radiation protection against single event upsets, as they're rather redundant and they're not easy to break. Watchdog timers basically work by registering a hard reset on the printed circuit board after receiving a kick. And this kick can be a timer or some other external source, but whatever happens, the watchdog timer will reset the whatever it's connected to whatever it was before, whatever the watchdog timer has stored on it. So the first method of watchdog timers that we will be testing are electronic watchdog timers. These work by basically having an internal central processor within the actual FlipSat-1 that basically controls everything. This will connect individually to every single printed circuit board that will be using electronic watchdog timers. We will be testing for the amount of electricity usage, and before we reset it, we will take the data from the printed circuit board. This is for both methods, not just the first, and we will compare it to after to see how many single events occurred, and also if the electricity usage from the electronic watchdog timer was worth it. The second method of radiation protection that we will be using will be physical watchdog timers. These kicks will be registered and executed physically with very little electronic involvement. However, since you are digitally resetting the printed circuit board, there will have to be some electronic involvement. So unfortunately, we cannot rule that out. As before, we will be weighing the single event upsets that occur against the weight of the actual physical watchdog timer and also the electricity cost of it. So the impact of the FlipSat-1 is that new researchers and also people that are building any type of satellite can have increased cost effectiveness for radiation hardening. There will be an increased understanding of radiation and radiation hardening that will allow for further research into it. And the most important impact of the FlipSat-1 will be the educational benefit that it provides to the students within the FlipSat-1 team. Before we end, I would just like to quickly mention our proposal to NASA that I mentioned in the beginning. We submitted in 2018 and 2019. Unfortunately, we were not accepted. However, in the future, we will be resubmitting, and we hope to get accepted by increasing how specific we are with our technicality, so that way there's a more feasible plan, and also providing more educational value to the members of our team, so that way it fits more within the parameters of what the CSLI is looking for, and also so it's more beneficial to our members. Additionally, also so it's more beneficial to our members. Finally, another point that we'll be using to try to increase the feasibility and acceptability of the FlipSat-1 will be receiving actual feedback from experts within the field. This is just for viability and also to double check our technical aspects. So if you have any questions or feedback, please contact me. As I said before, I'm the co-investigator of the FlipSat-1. I'm Theodore, and my email is stated here. Thank you and have a great night.